CA Surbi Punshi, Indirect Tax Expert at Clear Tax, and I welcome to all of you on this special day, which is CA Day, to all our eminent, I would say CA, and I would actually like to honor and thanks to all the CA in the country on this National CA Day. Happy National CA Day to all my CA friends. You are like completely amazing. And with this, first, maybe I would like to welcome our panelists over here. So first is our CA Avinash Podarji. He is an indirect tax expert. He's in practice for the last 20 years. Currently, he's practicing as an advocate. He's a member of the Indirect Tax Committee of PhD Chamber of Commerce and Gujarat Chamber of Commerce. So with this, we welcome Avinashji. So we have our next panelist. She's CA Divya Agarwalji. She's currently working as a partner of Savaria and Company. She's handling YouTube channel Tax Without Tears, which has crossed 1.5 lakh. She was recognized as a young CA achiever by NIRC. So with this, I would like to welcome CA Divya ji. And our next panelist, and she will be joining us shortly, she is Shefali Gidewalji. She's an author, trainer, and renowned YouTuber on GST. She's a visiting faculty and speaker at the ICI. She has conducted more than 200 seminars across India, and she will be just joining us recently. So with this, I will just start our today's session, which is more on the tax expert guide to best and the safe practices. And we are going to just start our session. But before that, I just want to see if you all are able to hear us or not. So if you are able to hear us, just say hi on the chat box. Great. So it seems like everyone is able to hear us. So with this, we'll just start our today's session. And maybe first I would like to understand from Avinash sir, if he can just tell us something about what has this pandemic taught you about safety of the client data and how do you deal with this remote data handling?
Thank you so much, Surviji. First and foremost, I would like to thank ClearTax for arranging such a wonderful discussion, and that too on a CA day. And also, I would like to wish all the chartered accountants a very happy CA day, including my co-panelist, CA Divya and CA Shefali, including Surviji.
Thank you, sir.
I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
Actually, I'm traveling, so right now I'm in a hotel room, so I don't know what the connection would be all about. Anyways, the topic, the question which you have asked me, pandemic certainly was unexpected, and being unexpected, it has taught a lot of things to us. More importantly, to we chartered accountants, because we are based on, or rather, we are into the compliance practices to a large extent. Compliance practice requires the data to be safeguarded and protected in a right manner. Now, we all were doing this. Since ages, since the day we were using the softwares. Welcome, Shefali. Since the day when we used to have the softwares and the usage were increasing, we were focusing on the retention of data, the safety and the safeguard of the data. But yes, this pandemic, because now what has happened is we were relying on our data at our office premises, at our residence premises, but it may not be in a situation that it was online. Now, after pandemic, when we are working from home, or now the entire world has become a small place and anybody can sit anywhere and work for his clients, the data in the electronic world becomes very relevant. And we all are aware that whenever such kind of data is there, which is there on the web portal or maybe on the server, which is online, there is always a risk of not only the theft of the data, but also of the lot of persons who can demand money from us or harass us by anything. The only thing that I would like to share here as my experience would be Had it been a case that there was no pandemic, then also we were moving towards the online filings. Online filings means that the returns have to be filed online, the data has to be protected online, it has to be maintained online. So therefore, even otherwise, even in a case when pandemic was not there, data protection was the most important and very crucial aspect. And we all have witnessed how the GST has struggled, I would say, or rather has been frustrated, because the way it was ought to be implemented, it could not be implemented. One of the major reason is that our softwares were not supporting it. I'm not into the data, but still I have found various factors wherein even the data was not protected. The data was not correctly reflecting in the returns that we have filed. So yes, I'll conclude by saying that data protection is of utmost importance. Even otherwise, even if it is not a pandemic situation, then also the protection of data is very important. Now, we chartered accountants are having the ownership of data of our clients. When I say ownership, it means that we have to own that data because client trusts us. They have allotted those data to us, and now they are trusting us that now chartered accountant is going to maintain the data completely and safeguard this data. So therefore, all those parameters which were applicable to our clients till date now becomes applicable to us, because our office also needs to be so much equipped that any kind of data privacy or data loss should be protected, and that is something which is very, very relevant. I am not on pandemic, even otherwise it is very important. Over to
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I think this is like you clearly mentioned, like it's just not because of the pandemic, but in general also, if we just talk about the client data, it actually becomes really important for us, and the safety of the same at the same time becomes really very important because they are trusting us, and that trust is important when we have to build that relationship also with the client. And obviously, the cruciality of the particular data is really important now. But one important part which this pandemic actually have impacted most of us is like how we can even get this data online, because obviously because of this lockdown and all, right, we were not able to even go to our offices, and most of the time we were like more on like maintaining the files and all, which is like a kind of hard copy, and we were not even saving data online. But getting that data in itself was becoming a problem, because then we have to say, okay, where exactly I can access the data, what if I am at home and I get the access to the data. So that is something which we have learned during this period, where we know that how can we actually have this entire data on the cloud, at the same time the security of the data, that no one other person can have the access to it. So that is something which we have learned, and we are even looking into it. And obviously, that is something which people have already adopted and are now started looking into the software or the cloud softwares. Maybe with this, like, because we are talking about the technology also, and like we are also looking into how the CA firms are also transforming, because if we just see earlier we were more focused on files and all, but now we are like, okay, let's not only look into the files but also like put this data on the cloud basis so that we can have the access to it. Maybe I would like to understand from Divya ji if you can actually tell us or share your experience with adopting the technology for tax practice and steps you took for the smooth change management, which help our professionals, like especially our fellow professionals here.
Firstly, I would like to thank ClearTax, Surbhi, and I would like to express that I am very happy and I'm glad that I'm sharing this stage with Shefali ji and Avinash sir. And I would like to wish all of you guys a very happy CA Day, and at the same point of time GST Day, because 5 years back, 2017, GST was first time implemented, and gradually we cannot say it is going towards good and simple tax, as sir mentioned. It is rather getting more complex and complex and complex every day, with each and every notification coming into picture. Now, coming over to your question that regarding how we have actually managed. See, pandemic taught us that nothing is permanent, because be it our health, be it our life, and same ways when it comes to our office, we have to make sure that we come on to certain practices wherein we have to eliminate the physical barriers. Be it in respect to the employees, that wherever they are sitting, they can access the data, they can do their work from that place. And at the same point of time, if I talk about professionals and the employer point of view, we have to make our data available, clients' data available to them. So the first step comes into picture is your books of accounts. Firstly, you have to aware the client that जो आप bills बना रहे हो. Earlier, what certain businessmen, जो लाला type businessmen, I would simply term them as, ठीक है, what they used to do is they simply have a tax invoice booklet और उसी में books काटते हैं. Firstly, they have to transit themselves from this particular thing to a particular software where they can actually generate the tax invoices using the systems, which was a very huge task, asking them to shift from manual thing to the computerized thing. Though from the time Modi government came into picture, digitalization was one thing which he always focused on. But this pandemic, what it has done is it has just speeded up this entire thing. It has expedited this pattern that digitalization should be done much earlier. And once the client gets used to this digital thing, that means the system in which they have to generate their invoices, they have to maintain their books of accounts, it becomes easier for the professional then to allocate the data to the employees. Now, once you have if I talk about myself, once I have made them aware कि नहीं आपको, you have to come onto this digital platform, you have to start using this thing. Then comes the another challenge कि employees को कैसे आपको data देना है. We have to make sure कि we have certain kind of softwares. The time when GST came in, it was like there were so many free softwares that were roaming around. So it compromises the confidentiality. So we have to stick onto a particular software, complete software, encrypted software, wherein we can actually share the data, which is protected so that the confidentiality of the client data is also maintained. At the same point of time, we need to ensure that we are allocating the exact or the relevant information which a particular employee needs. We don't have to make available the entire data to all the employees. We have to limit the access of the data. Whatever is relevant to a particular employee should be made available to them, and rest accordingly we have to bifurcate the same. So basically cloud services, accounting, the software, and making available the right data to the right employee was very important. This I have learned during this entire pandemic, and I would like to suggest the same to my professional colleagues also. Further, there can be passwords also, because if we are sharing any particular document with any kind of employee, we can enable, just like Gmail, we have two-step verification we can do in the same kind of in the data itself. We can get the files password protected. So these were the steps we have actually incorporated to ensure that the data confidentiality is maintained. At the same point of time, we can keep running our practices, even though our offices were shut down because of the lockdowns, etc. So I think these are some points which will help our professionals also.
Thank you, Divya ji. So I think you have like explained in really detail and actually telling about like how we can even do that. And whenever we just talk about this technology, and as you mentioned, right? So it's not only about like a CA doing all these things using technology, but it's also about the businesses, like how they're even recording the data, how they're even keeping their books of account. So as you mentioned, like they are like still there are some Lala-based companies who are still using the manual copies for creating the invoices.
I would like to interrupt in between. We have Chandni Chowk market, complete huge market, and they are not businessmen which are dealing in lakhs; they are in crores. Okay, and having a turnover of crores, still convincing them is a huge task.
I totally agree with you. So that is something which we are looking. But again, at the same time, when we just look into the vision of the government, right, and exactly how they are transforming, how they're even changing. And one of the best example is e-invoicing. So it's like kind of people were just like, okay, we are not going to do all of this thing. I'm not going to keep on creating iron on a daily basis and all. But if we just look into the government, they started with like 500 crore plus ka turnover, and then they reduced that limit to 50 crore, and now it's like 20 crore. And we also know soon this 20 crore limit will again further reduce to maybe 5 crore. So, and that will actually force people to come online and start doing the businesses, creating the invoices. So that is, I think, the force which government is trying to do. And we again have to just see like business will adopt. It's always good like if they understand this sooner so that they don't face a lot of problem in adopting the technology. So we again, obviously, we have to look into that part. And that is how maybe everyone, like whether we talk about the businesses or when we talk about the even the CAs and all, right? So who are actually helping them, because CAs are nothing but they're the guides, right? So they are kind of guides for the clients, and they actually help them telling like what exactly you have to do and how you can even do all that thing. So maybe with this, because we are just talking about the technology part, maybe I would also like to understand for Shefali ji, if you can just tell about some of the challenges which are like commonly faced by the tax professional in convincing the clients of the suitable tax management solution.
Thanks, Surbi, and welcome everyone. Happy CA to everyone. First of all, technology is very strong force, and when something is very strong, we are always afraid of it, because a small misuse of that thing can actually destroy a lot of things. That is a challenge, right? And I have seen like many big and huge cases where technology is not properly implemented, and they actually caused a catastrophic effects on the thing. If you have just came through a recent case of Cloudflare, you're not into technology that much, I understand. I'm addressing CAs, but Cloudflare is a software for not just software, it's a security mechanism which is used by many big websites. So many websites like Quora and Canva, like some of the top websites of the world, were down for so many days just because of failure of Cloudflare. So technology is very important. It has very wide coverage, and when something is like very wide and very explosive, so we always have a fear of that. Like, what if it didn't work properly, or what if I will not be able to understand what it is exactly going to do? Because I have seen some of the cases in the big corporates where the SAP is implemented, and just because something is not happening through the SAP, the transactions, they actually had taken the place like many years back. So if there was a machinery, it was like entered into the factory, it was already used in a crude tank, it was already used, put to use, but just because of improper implementation, it was never being able, they were like never being able to enter it into the software, because it had some requirements and they were not being able to fulfill those requirements in those formats. So I think that is a very big challenge. I have seen that in many corporates with ERPs also, right? So we implement ERP, but its successful functioning is very important. So I always feel there is a gap between a user and the person who is coding something, and that is the same thing with GSTN and tax professionals also. So CBIC understands something in a different manner, but a coder who is sitting in GSTN, he don't understand tax. Usko nahi pata tax kya hota hai. He don't understand place of supply. He don't understand. What he understand the React. He understand Java, HTML. He don't understand what is taxation. So that translation of something into a completely different phase into something which is completely different, I think that is the key point for the success of any technology, any software, or any those kind of softwares, right? So that is a challenge for the CAs also. So they also feel in the same way. So if they are using any software, their first fear is, what if it start working into some direction, or what if it is in backend doing something which I actually don't understand and I don't want, and after some period of time I will be able to know, or like through some incident I will be able to understand that okay, it was working in that manner. So that is the biggest fear of any person. And then second problem is transition. So many of them are very traditional, but not all of them. So when it comes to CAs, we always try to understand the traditional CAs, but there are very, very modern CAs who are doing very fantastic technical jobs also. So the thing is that the second fear is to transition into something else. That is again the same challenge. A person who is reading taxes, the case laws, for them it's very difficult to understand what is HTML. But yes, in income tax also and in GST also, we have learned a lot about technologies. So the JSON files, like as a CA, I should have never heard about this word, right? But when you have to file your returns, I think they have made us really technical by doing a lot of defaults in their own website. So we have to search onto the net, like how to correct a JSON file, which we were never supposed to do. Because we are the tax person, accounting person, financial person. Like, what the hell we have to do about those kind of files? And those kind of experiences, the experiences which we have with GSTN itself, I would say the biggest example of a project failure, Right? It's the biggest, like, because the tune and the volume was very high. So one of the biggest example of a failure of a project, when you cannot translate X into Y, but other person understands the Y. That was one of the biggest example. And that was the error from the side of government. But if same error would have done by some human or some individual, I don't understand what should have been the consequences for those people. So that is the biggest challenge, the fear of technology, the fear of something which I cannot see through my vision because I had never been through such kind of experience. That fear, we always have that. When we are going into the dark, when you are living in your own home, in your own room, you don't have any fear because your brain understands everything, every sound, every visual. But when we are going into the dark, we have that fear because now we don't understand every sound. We don't understand everything which we are being able to see. So that is the same fear. And I will say we will have to overcome that fear because the world is changing very fast. If you will see AI, artificial intelligence, so till now the thing was just collecting the data, sorting it, and then just putting out some results. But now the next thing, the next big thing of the entire world, in everything actually, is going to be the artificial intelligence. So people are creating a lot of things which a human will take like 20 or 30 years to create through artificial intelligence in minutes or hours. And recently I see one more interesting thing. So some days back in one webinar, I discussed about AI writing. So artificial intelligence is writing the content. They are writing the submissions for the court. And that was very interesting because they can read like 1,000 cases in 1 minute. They can read every keyword. And the important thing is they can read like a human and not like a machine. So they also understand the context. It's not like a machine ne to galat kar degi. So they also understand the context. And then there is one new thing for me, which is surprising for me also. So now AI can create the faces also. So recently I came to a website and I was looking at the faces. So I thought it's a real human. But when I read the captions, I came to know that those all faces, which were completely like human, they were created by AI. And they were being able to speak. And you can also create your own avatar. And you can just speak for 1 minute to that machine. And then you can give it any text and it will speak for you in your voice, in the same voice. I mean, see, that's magic, right? So that is the same thing. Technology is very powerful, but we should know how to control it. That is the only thing. So if we know how to put the remote, we can do anything. So that is the thing. So for the CAs, it's very important to just go through the technology and try to understand it. And there is one more thing, Chandni Chowk was in the discussion that I will say, when Chandni Chowk people don't want to go online, that is a completely different reason. That is not fear of technology, that is fear of something else actually. Yes, Surbi.
Thank you, Shefali ji. So I guess we talked about this technology and especially the only, I would say the fear people have, what if it goes wrong? Like what if there are some problems over there? But again, the only question which comes into everyone's mind, right? So it's not always about the machines going wrong. It's also about a human going wrong. So even if we do something manually, right, there are high chances that there would be some mistake. So even if we just think about like new people who is getting trained, there's some like learning curve. So it is not like in the first day they will be perfect. It will take some time, or maybe after some time they will be like doing good. So again, when it comes to technology, we have to think it always in that positive way, like how I can use my knowledge in something better compared to the normal manual tasks which I'm doing on the daily basis. A few example could be like, we always keep on saying, right, when there was a GST, we was like, okay, we have to do all these reconciliations and all, and people start using Excels and doing VLOOKUPs, and then again pulling the data, ingesting some data, and even transforming some data and all of this thing, right? So this is something maybe if 1 or 2 times you can do it manually, but again when we understand, okay, this is anyhow going to be a manual task, then why to waste our energy over there? Why can't we just like get something which is done automatically and using some fuzzy thing and all, and at the same time just review the result, whether it is as per expectations or not. Is it like things which we are actually looking for or not? Because we then uses our knowledge and see, okay, maybe on top of this I can come up with something beautiful, something insightful. So that is where we may like use our energy rather than just something which can be done with machines and all. So that is how like technology can actually help. It will actually save our time. It will actually save our cost. And then we may focus on that thing. Okay, now let's do some optimization over there on top of it. So this is more on our technology front, and now but again, as we always keep on saying, right? So nothing can be 100%. So we have to still regulate it. The remote should be on our hands. So looking into this, maybe I would like to understand from Avinash ji, what are the precautions you take to keep this client's data, credentials, everything safe and secure? And is there any advice you would like to give to our budding professionals?
See, I think it has already been covered by Divyaji. How to protect the data, not only of our client, but our office also. Because it's not only the client's data which is relevant, but also our office data. Because we do a lot of hard work, a lot of back office work or homework while analyzing the data or mining up the data. And then we come to a conclusion and draft a report or anything, a return or something like that. Important is we need to have those tools. As Divyaji was rightly mentioned, that encrypted way of storing a data and decrypting the data, that becomes very, very important. I still remember in 2005 when for the very first time the digital signatures were introduced in the country. I was the first partner of Tata Consultancy Services in that in 2005 October. That technology was working only on this which Devyaji has touched upon, the confidentiality of the data, the non-repudiation of the data, integrity of the data, and the storage of the data, because that is something which is digital signature has to do, because that protects your identity. And if it is non-repudiation is not there, then it is going to fail. The same is going to be there the case in our offices also, when we are storing the data or holding the data of our clients, doing multiple activities on that data, coming to or reaching to a conclusion, finding out the exception reports and all. One way can be we can have those tools wherein whenever we use those tools, the data will get transmitted only through the encrypted manner. And when we are accessing that data, it will get decrypted only by a standard protocol, which will be unique for you, that can be implemented in our offices. Now, when we use a software, let's say, as you rightly mentioned, that a lot of chartered accountants offices have changed their way of working. Now, in spite of carrying those hard copies of files, now they have the electronic files. But that is not something which is sufficient. Having electronic records is okay, but protecting that electronic records is much more important, because there can be two ways of looking at it. One is I only have an office wherein a server is there. I am accessing that server offline whenever the office is working. That is one. There will be least risk. Two, when the data is transmitted through the cloud, that point in time, the encryption and the decryption technology becomes very important. There are tools in the market which can be utilized for the same, that whenever you are storing something, it goes into a database in the encrypted form, and when it is getting utilized or getting accessed, it will be decrypted and used. So only suggestion that I would like to give is, as you invest in your office, in your books, or in your, let's say, furniture and fixtures, I think now the time has came when you are moving electronically or to the electronic platform, that you should invest a higher amount, a much larger amount in your data protection. Not only the data protection of your clients, but also your own office data protection. That is the only thing that I like to share.
Thank you, Avinash sir. And as you mentioned, right, it's not only about going cloud; it's also about security of the data, and there are other things also which we need to take care. So again, I think when we just talk about data security, because one thing I remember which keeps on hindering my mind, and I always keep on thinking how will this be even possible, and which is a very normal thing for any CA firm. So we all understand when it comes to running a CA firm, we obviously have articles and all who are doing training under us. And again, there is a time period, right? So we know that there is a 3 years time period for which they are going to do that training. And there would be always a new member which will be coming in. There would always be an old member who is going to out, and maybe they will just do their own practice, or there could be some other business, right? So the only thing which every CA always keep in their mind is what if my data is loose? And let's say there is some client which is handled by an article, which is under us? What if after he leaves, like how we'll make sure that data is still secure? It's not leaked, right? It's not gone anywhere else. So this is, yes, sir.
I would like to share one more experience of mine. In 2003, I started a software company. I was developing the softwares I started with .NET, and then gradually I shifted to Java. I was coding Java on my own. In 2006, we launched one platform which was named as onlineitr.com. Exactly what you are saying, I can correlate, and therefore I'm interrupting in between. And that is my personal experience. So what we did was we were using Java and Oracle, and at the same time, this platform was in PHP. And I was more inclined towards technology in those days, so I developed on my own. In 2006, if you guys are very young, so I am not sure whether in 2006 you are aware of this or not, but 2006 was the first year when electronic filing of companies was made mandatory in ITR. ITR electronically was supposed to be filed for private limited and limited companies. We launched that software, and the only reservation which every chartered accountant was having was that what will happen if this data is lost. Exactly what you were telling. But now times have changed. It is 16 years. I launched in 2006. It failed because the security issue was there. They were concerned. But now, since everything is online, I think that concern is, to a large extent, it is now settled. They do not have this कि मेरा डेटा अभी सुरभि जी के पास चला जाएगा, वो देख लेंगे तो क्या होगा, या मेरा कोई कॉम्पिटिटर देख लेगा तो. अब now those concerns, I don't think that is there. But yes, we need to adopt the tech tools or the technologies which can help us or help our clients कि वो minimize कर सके हम वो risk को. That is the thing which is most important. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, I think that like actually answers also like which I was about to talk about. So so this is something like which we have to like obviously deal with, and we also have to start trusting some part of the technology, right? So because we have already seen this in the past, like we have been like looking into GST also, and you can actually see when it was launched and today, like where we exactly are. So these are something which we should learn about. And now if I now just talk about, because we are talking about the technology and all, right? So maybe I would like to understand from Divya ji, if you can just tell about a well thought out plan which supersedes this tax management, and how do you plan the year for ensuring an effective tax management kit is implemented for your clients?
See, firstly, to ensure that a proper tax management thing is coming into picture, I think we as professional and my staff needs to be updated. You need to be updated about the regular changes which are coming into, be it GST, be it income tax, be it MCA or any other taxation law, whichever you are dealing into or whichever field you are dealing into. So before guiding, we ourselves need to upgrade ourselves, our knowledge. Then only we can actually pass on that knowledge to our clients or maybe our other fellow professionals. So this was the first thing wherein we can actually ensure that the effective tax management thing can be put into picture. Then secondly, for the tax management thing, we also need to basically inform our clients regarding the various schemes which are prevailing. Be it the, I would say the SIPs, mutual fund SIPs, or we can say the various deductions which the client can claim, or the professional can guide on to their clients regarding the various tax management things. Okay, and right now in the market, the electric vehicles, they are becoming popular very gradually. They are becoming popular. Reason being, the prices of petrol and diesel are becoming they are like skyrocketing. So people are actually switching on to electric vehicle. Now, what kind of tax benefits they are going to get? What schemes the government is going to launch? What are the tax basically savings which we are going to get when we are planning to purchase the electric vehicles or so? So these kind of things we need to inform, that such kind of tax management practices or tax saving techniques which the government is actually wanting us to spread into the market or to the clients. This is how we can actually say, we can actually ensure that yes, we can ensure the tax management thing, we can guide our clients, we can ensure that our professionals also do the same towards their clients, and at the same point of time, not only we are benefiting the client, but at the same point of time, we are helping the government also, because we are actually spreading or making awareness about their scheme itself. So this is how we can actually ensure this entire thing. And secondly, having a proper communication also. Just informing them will not suffice. We have to actually convince them to take those particular schemes. And having a proper access point, a proper communication, proper deliverables, in telling them about the complete schemes or sending them the entire documentation or communication is very important in this case.
So thank you, thank you, Devaji. I think like you actually gave some of the examples, like what exactly we should do. And I think one important thing, and I actually keep on getting this call, and I always resonate with this thing. So whenever it comes to clients, right? Whenever it could be individual, it could be business person, right? So सबसे पहला उनका क्वेश्चन यही होता है, मैम ये बताओ कि टैक्स कैसे बचाना है. So that is something everyone have, and whenever they feel कि सीए यार, even if you are just going out and कुछ भी कहीं भी फंक्शन में जाओगे तो पहला क्वेश्चन आता है, अच्छा आप सीए हैं क्या? मैंने कहा हाँ. तो so they were like first question, अच्छा ठीक है मुझे बताओ ना ये टैक्स मेरा बहुत बन रहा है, मेरे को कहाँ से बचाना है, कैसे क्या कर सकते हो? So this is something like which every time, right? And this is something people always think, कि अच्छा सीए है तो ये कर देगा. So I think one important part which we should understand over here is, right, so CA obviously they do tax planning. They actually help you in making sure कि कहाँ पे आप optimize कर सकते हो. And it could be, and whenever we are talking about tax saving, obviously we make sure that we are compliant, and at the same time we are able to save on the taxes or maybe on the finance or maybe your working capital management and all. So that is something when we talk to our clients also, right? So because we obviously understand the legal part. We understand, okay, ऐसे यहाँ investment करोगे तो you may save this much of the taxes, or even if you invest over here, you can do this thing, or maybe it could be even working capital management. आज तुम loan ले लो, इस % पे ले लो, we may tell you कि maybe you can take this loan, but आप इस पैसे को इधर use कर लो, or you have excess cash which is right now available with you. So we may always advise you where you should ideally go and invest the money so that you get some return also. So it should not be just lying in your bank account and you're not even earning any interest over there. So that is something which people look for, and obviously that is something which CA also help. And it's not always restricted to only tax thing. It could also be a working capital management. It could also be even nowadays we keep on hearing about this reconciliation thing, right? So we keep on hearing, okay, you can claim ITC only when you do or whenever the ITC is reflecting year 2B. So there also we can actually look into it like, okay, what if my supplier is not? And I could actually see on the chat box also, there was some person who just asked that my supplier has not uploaded the invoices in my, like in their GST1. So it's not reflecting to be, what should I do? So answer to all of that, obviously there is answer to all of this thing, like what exactly you have to do over there. So, and again, it also depends on your relationship between that person. So if it's like kind of, you know, that you're just a goal oriented and, you know, it's not like a very key person. If it's not a key supplier, then maybe you can take steps like, you may even stop making the payment for the GST component. You can make the rest of the payment, but maybe for the GST, you can just stop it. So that, and you make only once he uploads the document in their GST1. So these are some actions we may always take in. And again, we have to take a call between like how important the supplier is for you, but because there can also be consequences to it. Sometimes people say, okay, this is my key supplier. My business will just stop if this person stop giving me the services. So if that's the case, then obviously you have to take some other alternative steps over there. So this is something which always keep on coming whenever we think about the tax management, or maybe it's a cash flow management, and we should always look into this. But now because we are talking a lot on the technology innovations and all, right? So I would just like to. My voice is audible?
Yes, you're perfectly audible.
Okay. So maybe because we are just talking about this technology, maybe Shefali ji, I would like to understand from you, like what are some of the modern and innovative tax saving practices which is like followed by you? Because I have been like hearing from you, and as you gave some example also, right? Like how you actually explore different software. So maybe I would like to understand from you, like if you can give like how you leverage that and how it actually helped you.
So, for the technology point of view, I will say, first of all, for every organization and every professional, the first thing is to do is when you are taking an assignment, it should not be something verbal like "Acha mere return file kar dena." Expectation, what I'll be going to provide and what I'm going to receive for that. Those should be clear. Like I'm just replying to that earlier part of your conversation. that when you go to any function and people will say, "Get your CEO to text bacha do." See, we need to understand one thing. First of all, we need to increase the general knowledge of general people about the functioning and role of a chartered accountant. All right. So first thing is we need to act like Krishna. We will tell the other person how they need to fight, what they need to do, when they need to do, and the manner and the tricks in which they will be able to do it better. But we should never ever try to be like Yudhishthir or Arjun and just take this something and start attacking on someone else. But I have seen that as a professional CAs, like they started doing this thing too much. So if some policy of government is wrong, that is the problem between the government and the businesses. That is not the problem between the government and the chartered accountants. First thing we need to understand. Second thing is, whenever you are taking an assignment, document it. Even if it is simple, even if it is just filing of return, document it. Send the document to the person and get it signed that this is my role, this is my function. My thing is not reduce your tax, or my thing is not to tell you something exceptional out of somewhere and discovering some completely new thing so that you will be able to save the tax. I will just tell you what is in the provision. I will provide the best analysis of that. I will analyze your case in the light of those provisions, and I will tell you every legal option which you can use to save your tax or minimize your tax. So that should be our approach for everything. And when it comes to saving of tax, it's not just about something like saving the tax of an individual, of someone like at the time of filing of return. As a chartered accountant, when you take up the assignment of a company, you have to design their entire policy, the design of infrastructure, the transactions, the process of everything. So this task is not about, it is not something to be done at the time of filing of return. This is something to be done at the time of taking up the assignment. It's a thorough process. So when you are taking those kind of assignment for an organization, whether it's direct tax or indirect tax, it's same for everything. The first thing we should do is set up the procedure. And for that matter, you need to understand each and every kind of transaction that entity is entering into. That is the first thing, right? Second thing is SOPs. Create the standard operating procedure for everything. Who will access the data? Whenever a system or any data is accessed, there should be a perfect log created for the person who has actually accessed it. Then what they actually did with that data. There are many softwares like Time Doctor is there. So if you want to actually monitor the system, so it will be able to record each and everything happening to the system. And the funny part with the Time Doctor is that many companies, specifically the IT corporates, when they give work from home to their employees, they install Time Doctor into their system. And there was a joke actually over the internet, like one of the employees, because you can monitor his system, his recording of his screen will be available to you. So what he was used to do, after 2 or 3 minutes, he will just come and just hover his mouse so that they will think, okay, he's doing something. So that can also happen. So SOPs, when we are making SOPs, they must be perfect, and we should consistently improve them based on the human behavior. So if I will say that for that particular employee, you will access the data only after you will log in here, you cannot click any pictures. So there should be the strict rules for everything. See, for physical world, it's very difficult and it's easy to find out the faults. But for the internet, someone may be stealing your complete data and you will not be able to know it for years. Right? So Google was stealing all of our data since years. Facebook is reading each and everything we do. But the good thing is that they use it only for advertises and for nothing else. So Google is listening to everything. Whatever you speak, even if your speaker is off, Google is listening to everything. But the good thing is they use it only for advertises, and like they don't make any personal use. So first of all, the first thing is we need to understand what we are dealing with, specifically when we are dealing with technology. That if you don't understand it, just outsource it to someone else who actually have the detailed knowledge of technology. That is very, very important part of it. So I will say SOPs, strict implementation. So even if you make the procedure, so because I am handling a huge team and I totally understand that no matter what kind of procedure you will make, people won't follow it. You will have to make them follow it. And even if they start follow it, like in the beginning, after some days, they will be lethargic. That is the basic human nature. So you will always have to focus on this thing. So first of all, strict standard operating procedures. Then there should be log of everything happening to the system. specifically for the client side. When someone from our office is going to a client side, it is very important that their conduct and their behavior, it should be already told to them, and it should be strictly implemented even at the client side. Because I have seen this thing that sometimes, you know what happens, if you're going into a big corporate and you're doing any unethical behavior, like you're just checking too much of mail, you're on the calls, they won't say anything. They'll be like, okay. But once you will find out any fault at their part, then they will give you the list. Okay, your employee, he came to our office, he was doing this, he was using Facebook, he was doing WhatsApp, he was taking the calls. So all of those tools will be used against you. And same thing happens in the department also. So I will say that for everything, it is very important that my entire data is properly synchronized. It is in my control. Its entry is in my control, and its access is also in my control. So not just the entry, access is also in my control. Okay. Now the next thing is that for indirect tax. So for the income tax, I don't have very deep knowledge of income tax because I'm not dealing into it. So I cannot tell you any tax saving tips for the income tax. For the indirect tax, I will say there can be thousands of things for the indirect tax, because it is, I can say it is more complex than it was ever. And if the provisions of finance bill, once they will be implemented, the entire provisions, it will become almost impossible to comply with it. And the people who have very strict implementation of SOPs, only they will be able to survive, because you will have to have a complete control on your supplier, your documentation of everything, even your agreement with the employees, with the third parties, with the supplier, they should be very strictly drafted. Each and every clause should be properly reviewed while you're drafting it. Then third parties. So if your supplier is not doing something, your ITC will go. If you're properly documenting everything, you're complying with it, you will be able to save yourself from that, because department people will send the notices. It is a routine now. But if we have strict implementation of our SOPs, we will be able to make a firm reply, and then we will be able to, protect ourselves from those kind of risks. Otherwise, I will say for the less disciplined people, indirect tax is going to be extremely difficult. So you will have to be extremely disciplined, because what I feel that government, they are not going to listen anything. And that is historical. It's not just in India, it's all over the world, right? So when even Indira Gandhi was in power, when she was in lesser majority, lost a case, Madhavraj Scindia, in the court, and she had to withdraw. But when she came with complete power, she didn't listen to anyone. She did whatever she wanted to do. And she even changed the constitution because she had the power. So now we need to understand that even at this point of time, we have very powerful government, complete majority government. So don't expect them that if we will do something and like any kind of breather from their side, that okay, government will say you are right and I am wrong. So we need to understand, if government is saying do compliances, do it. If government is saying check your supplier, check it. So that is very important. So SOPs plus the logs for everything, who is accessing the data, then the procedure for supplier verification before you make a purchase from it, and the contract and agreement with the supplier, that is also very important. So in case there is any default from the part of supplier for a time period, like for 1 year or 2 years, so if there is any default from the part of supplier, a proper compensation should be there in my agreement when I'm entering into with any supplier. So I think those kind of things will become essential for the big corporate, at least, even for the small also.
Thank you, Shefali ji. So as you mentioned, right? So there is always like a need of proper SOP, and it's not always about like just having SOPs. It's also about how we follow it, because we may always start, but we may not continue it, because many times this always happens, right? That we started with like a lot of excitement. Okay, let me just finish this and let me just do that. But when it comes to continuity, we just stop in between, and it could be because of different factors we have. Now, because as you mentioned some of the example, right, like looking into how the indirect taxation especially is moving, how the GST, the laws are getting changed. And one important part, as you mentioned, is about like a supplier thing, right? Like it's not always about like you're making sure like today something we have to verify whether my supply is actually compliant or not. We have to make a proper contract with them. What if they default? Like whether I will get that money back from them or not? Like what if they're not making proper GST payment and I have claimed ITC? So I should be able to, or I should be in a condition to recover that money from that person. So these are some strict rules, and obviously, if you look into the bigger companies, they have actually started, and we would have seen that they are properly looking into the vendors before even onboarding them, or maybe they're looking to existing contracts and all. Are they even covering what if there is some losses because of the vendor to them? And not only this, even if we just talk about payments part, so they have even started automating the payment. So they make sure if something is not even uploaded by the supplier, we'll just deduct the payments and all. But one important part which we should always understand, because this is something is not about, because whenever we are small company, we always think okay ठीक है, नहीं आया कर दिया, बस filing करना है, ठीक है हो गया filing. But it's not always about just filing. It's not always about just ठीक है 3B के अंदर liability दिखाया, ITC दिखाया, ठीक है payment हो गया and we are done. It's also about understanding the importance of this even reconciliation, like why we have to even reconcile, why there's a need of that, why there's a need of this vendor compliance and all. Because if you think about, if you are just a small company which is a profit margin of 20%, think about on an average you just get 20%. So think about that, if your vendors, they are not compliant, and assuming the GST rate is 18% over there, so which means you're ultimately losing 18%. So that becomes your cost. So you're not earning anything on a particular transaction. So it can actually result into the losses also if this is not like look into it carefully. Because many times you already think हाँ मुझे business करना तो आता है, but शायद compliance समझ नहीं आता, ये क्या है, मतलब GST क्या है, मुझे समझ नहीं आता. So now these are like, actually here the CA also comes into picture, who actually guides their clients, who actually tells them कि आपको करना क्या है. Like they maybe help them in filing the returns, giving lot of advices and all. But now the CA actually have to guide them कि देखो आपका normal business transaction ऐसा होता है, आप business बहुत सही कर रहे हो, but you actually have to make a right choice कि आपने कौन से vendors को लिया है, किन के साथ आप transactions कर रहे हो, आपका कितना profit margin है. अगर वो आपको पता है non compliant है, then are you making sure कि आप अपना फिर profit उस हिसाब से बढ़ा लो. Like just make sure कि वो cost में ही आ रहा है. So these are some decisions which have to be taken by every businesses, and then CA obviously have to guide them in taking such decisions. And it's not always restricted to just like ITC or maybe vendors. It could be anything else also. So I think this is something we always have to look into it and take certain action. Now, because we are like talking about a lot of the indirect taxation, maybe I would also like to understand, like from the direct taxation point also, and also from the tax management side. So maybe Avinash sir, if you would like to actually tell us or help us in knowing like how to leverage this technology for the tax management in both this direct and this indirect taxation compliance.
This is from which angle? Like this question I'm not able to get.
Okay, so this is just like because we always keep on saying, right, that we have technologies and all, we can optimize little things. So how can this actually help in like the compliance part, like in both this direct and the indirect taxes?
See, so far as the direct tax is concerned, I'm of the view that we are only filing the returns. That is the compliance what we are doing. And it is more or less based on the final statement which has been given to us. I don't think any technology is going to help us, only to an extent that whatever softwares we are using or adopting for the purpose of calculations of those tax liabilities, that is the only thing which a technology can play a role therein. The other thing can be the bulk filing of returns, wherein all the employees or the entire database of a company, it comes to a unique platform or uniform platform, and then through an Excel or whatsoever utility, and then we file a return for them on a single click. That can happen, but those are the specific things which specific firms does. It's not for every chartered accountant or every professional needs to adopt it. But yes, for indirect taxes, more specifically in GST. Now, I think there are a lot of utilities which are being provided to the taxpayers, which can be utilized, and then they can create their own link or own this thing connects, wherein they can directly get some data from the portal itself, from the platform itself, and that data can be utilized. But again, I would say, finally, we are being dependent on a third-party data, which to what extent can be relied upon is again a question, because as you rightly were mentioning that suppliers, to a large extent, this GST is now making us dependent on our suppliers, on third person. Now, in this world, I think that so in this world, like, we do not have control on ourselves. So where is the question of having control on a third party? That is something which is impossible, as Shefali rightly mentioned, that once the amended law is brought into force, it will become almost impossible for the taxpayers to comply with this law. Then a lot of litigations, a lot of disputes, a lot of questions will arise. So you asked me a question about bridging the tax management or the compliances with the use of technology so far as direct or indirect tax is concerned. Again, I would say there cannot be any direct connection into this, because see, let us presume that I am a company having a turnover of 1000 crores, having 300 employees. Then I can adopt a software, I can utilize and implement a software wherein entire data will, on a single click of a button, can come into my utility, and from there, return will be generated, which can be a bulk filing of returns, and it can be filed. That is the only thing which I can adopt. So far as a professional is concerned, he will have to implement it specifically. Now, as we all are aware that the clients are not, like, they are not going to be with us forever. Now, implementing such kind of technologies for a client at the cost of the firm, I think it is not feasible to my limited understanding. But yes, if the client is able to invest, we can utilize our brain, we can invest our time and energy, and we can get a utility prepared for our client, which in turn can extract the data from their servers without any frustration of the data or any tampering of the data, and then directly on a single click of a button, it can generate the reports or generate the returns, whatever we want. This can be done both for direct tax and indirect tax, but this can be for the internal and on the basis of the decision of the company or the client. But again, I would say, again, I would reiterate and insist that generating such kind of tools or developing such kind of software for one particular client may not be feasible, but nowadays those tools are already there. आप टैली से डेटा ले लीजिए और एक एक्सेल में एक्सपोर्ट करिए, फिर इंपोर्ट कर लीजिए एंड देन यूटिलाइज इट. Those tools are already there, but those tools cannot be completely relied upon. That is what I'm willing to submit, because there is no data check, there is no cross check, there is no log file, nothing. So आज आपने इंपोर्ट किया, 2 दिन के बाद वो सॉफ्टवेयर में कुछ उन्होंने बैक डेट में एंट्रीज पास कर दी, तो आपका सारा आज का रिपोर्ट फेल हो जाएगा. So there is no logging into those Tally and other software, local softwares. So we are talking about a company which is having SAP or an ERP. For them, developing a software in a CA firm and getting it linked at our cost seems to be not feasible for me. But yes, at their cost, using our experience, our energy and time, it seems to be a very good option, and we can bridge the gap and save a lot of time. Because when I was doing articleship long back, at that point in time, also in Bhattiwa and Company, which is E&Y now, that time also we were using such kind of tools wherein we were extracting the data for our clients specifically in an Excel tool, or we were using Word, Star and Lotus on all those softwares there, and then developing reports as per our requirements. वो शुद्ध हिंदी में बोलूँ तो पोसा जाता था. That was acceptable, but for a CA firm, a normal CA firm, seems to be a difficult task.
Thank you, Avinash ji. So, like, looking into one important part, like if we just look into all of this thing, I think one part which we should obviously understand about is, as I always keep on mentioning, right? So, technologies are like kind of an enabler for us, and this actually help you in reducing your manual efforts. So, and as we always say, right, there are a lot of tasks which we do today. Maybe today we may think like this is not even possible, like technology cannot even help me out with all this stuff, right? But if you have looked into the time we were in and the time we are here today, right, we would actually know something which we say, "Are ये तो possible ही नहीं था, कैसे हो सकता है?" But today we would have actually seen, it is possible. So, and we always say, right, the word impossible itself, that I am possible. So there are things that which can be done. We may think that it's not possible, but actually it's possible. It's just about, we have to just focus on, are we putting the right effort? Are we even looking to the right direction or not? So things may be done. It may take some time, but there would always be a time when we will say, ki, हाँ यार, ये तो हो गया. So even if we today keep on saying, right, जो आज अगर if you go to any businesses, you look into that, what exactly they are doing. You may see that हाँ वो बैठे हुए हैं, लगे पड़े अपना reconciliation कर रहे हैं, इसको इससे मैच कर रहे हैं, इसको ऐसे मैच कर रहे हैं, कुछ डाटा लेके आ रहे हैं. This is something we keep on seeing, keep on looking into it. But now question is, अच्छा ये automatically नहीं हो सकता क्या? Obviously the answer is it can be done. It can be automized. It's not like the reconciliation cannot happen. But again, there is something you have done automation. उसके बाद question आता है, अच्छा क्या वो accurate होगा? So accuracy maybe at the first instant it may not be. But we also at the same time understand that there are tools available. There is the AI thing which will train the machines in a way जैसे हम manually करते हैं. तो वो उसको ऐसे लॉजिक्स डाल देगा कि हाँ अब वो हो गया. मे बी फर्स्ट डे में नहीं हुआ था, बट मे बी आफ्टर 10 डे व्हेन यू सी यू लाइक अरे हाँ अब तो बेस्ट है. नाउ आफ्टर यू मे हैव पुट दैट एफर्ट इन द इनिशियल डेज, बट एट द 10th डे राइट यू योरसेल्फ विल रियलाइज कि अच्छा ठीक है इसके बाद तो मेरा टाइम बच रहा है. इसके बाद वो जो मैं हर महीने लगी हुई रहती थी, अब मुझे पता है स्पेशली लुकिंग इनटू दिस द जीएसटी थिंग राइट, वी नो दैट 2B 14th को जनरेट हो रहा है, 20th को 3B फाइल करनी है, मेरे पास सिर्फ 6 दिन है. अब उन 6 दिन में बैठ के मेरे पास अगर 10 जीएसटीएन भी है तो मैं बैठ के सबका रिकंसिलिएशन करूँ, तो इट्स अ वेरी लाइक ह्यूज टास्क. लाइक हाउ मैं कैसे करूँ, प्रैक्टिकली पॉसिबल ही कैसे है. तो वहां पे दिस टेक्नोलॉजी एक्चुअली हेल्प. वो मेक श्योर करता है कि एटलीस्ट आपका हाई लेवल वर्क हो चुका है, आप बस ऊपर से रिव्यू कर रहे हैं एंड देन यू आर लाइक डूइंग योर फाइलिंग्स एंड ऑल. So this is something we should always look into it, and it's just a one thing, right? It's not only about reconciliation. It could also be even ITR filing. Like if you just look into it, वो हम बैठते हैं अच्छा यार ये सेक्शन उससे लिंक्ड है, ये सेक्शन उससे लिंक्ड है. How will technology actually help? Actually technology can help you over there, making sure कि यार अच्छा जहाँ एक इनपुट था वो दूसरे इनपुट से मैच भी कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा. Where it actually should have been matched, but manually जब कर रहे थे यार we missed it. In fact we didn't realize कि अच्छा वहाँ depreciation का entry एक जगह डाल दे, दूसरी जगह डालना ही भूल गए. So all of this can be done. We just have to like look into this thoroughly, समझना होगा. बट हाँ उससे पहले अपने आप को मनाना होगा कि हाँ हमें यूज तो करना ही है. अनलेस वी इवन टीच अस कि हाँ करना है, वील नेवर डू इट. तो वो एक चीज होती है. सो दैट रेसिस्टेंस व्हिच वी ऑलवेज हैव राइट, एंड इनफैक्ट आई वुड से माय एग्जांपल टू इज नॉट ऑलवेज लाइक फर्स्ट डे मैं कहूंगी कोई मुझे कुछ नया पकड़ा देगा तुम कहो यूज कर लो एंड आई विल यूज इट. आई विल नेवर यूज इट. लाइक हाँ रुको मेरे को लेट मी फर्स्ट अंडरस्टैंड, तो उसके बाद यूज करेंगे. सो दैट इज ऑलवेज देयर, बट वी शुड ऑल्सो एट द सेम टाइम अंडरस्टैंड देयर इज अ लर्निंग कर्व. बट एक बार हो गया तो इट्स ऑलवेज गुड फॉर अस. So now because we are talking about all this, maybe I would just like to understand from Divya ji. So if you can just tell about like how do you think this role of CAs and tax experts is expanding with this rising compliances in the cross-border tax regulations and disputes?
The role of CAs, advocates, all the tax experts, they are increasing and they are going to increase day by day. Because with the kind of notification, complex notification, I would rather say, and multiple number of notifications, circulars, and so many changes coming into all the laws is making it all the more difficult for the clients to understand. So it is very important for all the professionals, be it all the taxpayers, CAs, CS, CMAs, advocates, etc., to stay updated. Unless and until they are updated, as I've earlier mentioned, we cannot actually pass on the right information onto the clients, and accordingly the right treatment cannot be done. And when we are saying after this pandemic, all the physical barriers, they are now not present because most of the things they have actually been digitalized, and this entire mechanism is expedited because of this pandemic itself. So now coming over to the cross-border transaction, as I can say, one of the major areas which is there in this cross-border transaction is the related party transaction. Be it any of the taxation, income tax, GST, or the company matters, etc. Related party transaction are always the target areas for all the authorities. Whether we are actually following the correct provisions, following the correct technology, correct methodology, and the correct treatment in respect to the recording the transaction, be it making the payments, be it complying with the GST provision, the valuation provisions, we are whether taking proper pricing or not. This has always been the area of concern among the authorities because usually what happens is whenever it is the related party, we tend to have some relaxations, or we do not, basically we actually are flexible enough. So we need to ensure, and considering all the conflicting advance rulings also, because whenever we are having related party or the cross border transaction, in that case we may be using the staff or the employees of the other persons, or our employee sitting at another location is working for us. Actually, in that case, what is the impact? Should we charge at GST, etc.? And when we have such kind of advanced authorities where every state is come on the same issue, is giving different perception, different conclusion, it becomes very important for all of us to analyze these provisions and then accordingly guide all the clients in respect to such transactions, whichever is happening in between the entities which are situated abroad, and in fact in between the various state also, for any particular entity having multiple place of business in between the states or the other countries. So role of CAs with the GST and with the other taxation and the updations coming into picture, it is increasing, and it is going to increase day by day.
Thank you, Divyaji. So, like as you explained, like one of the thing is obviously about the intercompanies thing, which is always there, like transfer pricing and all.
So many cross charges are there, and with each such transaction, basically department comes into picture and like, ये ऐसे कैसे हुआ, ये आपने सही नहीं किया, because these are the target areas actually.
Right. So and we always keep on even seeing it, and I think looking into, especially because you just talked about the branch transfer, or maybe it could be intercompany transactions and all, which is more on a relative company transaction. And I think one important part which actually I would have realized, and I always keep on seeing, and nowadays especially, like nowadays, like that the government itself have created their own SOP, so they know when exactly they have to issue the notices to the users, and we even keep on receiving a lot of notices, and main reasons, if we just look into it, like why they're even issuing us the notices. So we may see that the government has started connecting their entire data, so they have connected different platforms now. Now, simple example could be looking into your income tax, right? So this your income tax is actually linked to your GST platform. Even when you look into the ICE gate thing, that is again linked to your GST thing. So even when you look into your import of goods, so that there is a linkage. When you look into what your turnover you're showing in GST, it's linked to your 26 years also. So there you may see this information.
I would like to add one more thing. As you must have seen in this GST Council meeting itself, they were talking about the risky exporter. When it comes to the cross-border transactions, we are having imports and exports. And exporters nowadays, they are again on the radar of the GST department. Reason being, now they can classify based on their mechanism. Some of the genuine exporters, they're also marked as risky exporters. They're actually facing a lot of hardships because of this. So being professionals or being the advisors, we have to actually advise the clients, right? Like, how do we actually have to take care of all the exports, the imports? When do we have to make the payments, the FEMA guidelines, etc.? So all these things, they need to come into picture when we are talking about this cross-border transaction.
Right. So this is one thing, and I was also exactly mentioning in the same way, like how the different systems is connected, right? So about your journey.
So it has been a long journey altogether now, almost 22 years. I belong to a very small town, which is Haridwar. So there, in long back in 1995, when I started looking forward for foundation, there was no one who was doing CA. It was very, very difficult. And fortunately or unfortunately, I have never attended any coaching classes till date. So I was finding it very difficult to understand how to do CA. But prior to that, actually, I was never inclined to become a chartered accountant. I wanted to be an engineer. So I joined 11th with science because I was very sharp in calculations and softwares and all those things. I was very inclined towards that. But one of my relatives, he's my mentor and I idolize him. So he's a chartered accountant and a very honest chartered accountant. He is now retired and he's serving the community now. I borrowed the inspiration from him, and then I joined foundation. Was finding it very, very difficult because only two persons were there in the entire city who were doing CA. So I appeared for foundation. Luckily, I was in top 5. So I got an opportunity to work for Big Fours as an article. I got the articleship there. I shifted to Bombay, then to Calcutta, then to Delhi. I traveled a lot. And then the only thing that I have learned during this, as Divya ji has rightly mentioned, CA और कुछ सिखाया नहीं सिखाया, आपको मेहनत करना सिखा देता है. We work very hard. And that is a fact because I did CS also, I did ICAA also. वो शायद वो स्कैनर पढ़ के पास हो गए, बट CA में स्कैनर पढ़ते तो आई एम श्योर कि we would have failed. So that is something which has created a base on which the building of hard work can be now constructed. So then appeared for intermediate, again got rank, then appeared for finals, again was in rank. Then once I cleared this, I appeared for UPSC. I cleared that, but I was never inclined to do any job. So I started my own practice. Rather, I started my own classes in Baroda. So now there was a dream to, after becoming chartered accountant, to make chartered accountants. And I used to teach direct taxes. That was my subject. And you will be surprised to know I scored 94 marks in direct taxes, which is all-time highest in CA. And I scored only 40 marks in indirect tax. And now the destiny is that I'm practicing indirect tax. So this is what is. So I started the classes. Then finally and gradually I started my software company. It was running extremely well. But as I said that in 2006, we were implementing online software, which nobody was accepting. So therefore we had to quit back. In 2008, I started indirect taxes because direct taxes was almost saturated. And there were a lot of seniors with whom I was to compete. So in 2008, I decided to enter into the service tax and I started into practice of service tax. Then 2013 onwards, started writing books, and there were almost 27 books which have been published by me till date. अभी हिम्मत नहीं होती, पिछले 5 साल से एक भी बुक नहीं आई, एंड अब हिम्मत नहीं है लिखने की. दिव्या मैम की पढ़ लेते हैं. Journey is wonderful, but the only thing I think I would like to share with all the juniors is, in our times there was a lot of hard work because the systems, the softwares, the easiness of life was not there. So our time was getting invested into the manual calculations. हम वो ट्रायल बैलेंस पूरा एक पकड़ के स्टार्टिंग से लेके एंड तक मैनुअली कैलकुलेट करते थे. Our bosses were not giving us the calculators also. We are not using calculators. Typewriters पे audit reports type होती थी. So it was taking a lot of times. Now the youngsters are so lucky and so blessed that on a click of a button and just copy and paste, they can get the entire report. So they should utilize this time for, because CA firm is still there. Shefali ma'am is there, who is running that CA firm जो मैंने establish की थी. Now she is there. Now all those articles who are coming, they just have one intention to pass the exam. I think they should have the intention of learning the practice, because unfortunately यही हो रहा है, जो हमारा profession कहीं ना कहीं challenges में आ रहा है या criticism में आ रहा है, because of that our youngsters are not focusing on the core areas of practice. They are focusing much on एक बार पास हो जाते हैं फिर देखते हैं, और पास होने के बाद they directly jump into earning money. And any money to be earned in any profession, whether it is CA, law, doctor, engineer, whatsoever, it always has a gestation period. It always is difficult. It will take 5 years, 7 years, depending on the ability of that person. So I was lucky. I got very good acceptance from the day one. I built my practice from day one. It was a wonderful journey. When I look back, I still feel proud to be a chartered accountant, although I'm practicing as an advocate now. But reality ये है कि जो भी सीखा है, that is all because of the CA practice. And आज भी अगर थोड़ी बहुत को recognition है, 2-4 लोग जानते हैं, तो that is all because of CA Avinash Podar, not because of advocate Avinash Podar. So it was a wonderful journey, and I believe it is going to be a wonderful journey for at least 40-45 years to come. I am very optimistic person. So 40-45 साल तो I'll be there and will be in active practice.
Thank you, sir. I think this is very inspiring, and actually, you just talked about like how good you are in DT, and then you even switched to the IDT part, and
I was
that's
made
also
to switch. I was never willing to switch.
yeah. And even I would talk about that engineering part. Like in the 11th, you took science, and you were more interested in the engineering, and then your direction just changed. So this is something like it's something just tells us like, see, if you want to do something, you can always do it.
Can I just take 1 minute more?
Yeah, sure.
1 minute more, because I'm sure all the panelists are not knowing, including you. I was playing nationals for cricket. I was playing for Ranji Trophy, representing the state of Bengal and the state of at that time it was Uttar Pradesh. Now it is Uttarakhand, Haridwar.
Thank you.
I was also a national singing
Okay, I think we lose Avinash sir. We'll just wait for him to join. But meanwhile, maybe I would like to understand from Shefali ji, if you can also like tell something about your journey, like your experience, like after becoming or maybe during the CA. Shefali ji, you are on mute. Sorry.
So there is one thing I will add for Avinash. He's also a singer. He's a very good singer actually. He sings very well. So yes, for me also it was a normal journey. I'm also from a very small town and I will say a very humble family. And it's like I lost my father like 22, 23 years back. I was like a child at that time. And being a girl from small town, once you don't have your father, the first thing like everybody will have around is like get her married to anyone. It's like anyone, like so that because for the middle class families, the thing about a girl is like once she is married, so your thing is done. But that was the thinking of my relatives, some of the relatives, but my family was not like that. They always supported me. So for me, the reason of doing CA was a little different. So first of all, it was a hunt for me. So I will anyhow I had to settle my career because I never wanted that life, like to get married with any kind of girl, like kisi se bhi kar do. And the second thing was that like since I was a child, I was used to see CNBC 8 TV 18 channel, and I was always like I want to do some business, something like I just wanted to create something, some new idea, something like Facebook or Google or like the Gmail itself. So it was my thing. Like I always wanted to be like CEO of something, to create something, because what I have seen, girls are very very less into creating something, right? If you will see inventions, if you will see the startups, like in this era, you can see many girls into the startups. But in the earlier era, like maximum they could have done is like to teach or maybe doctor in some of the cases, or like having something safe and secure so that they can manage their home life and their professional life also. So for the girls, like not just in India, all over the world. So if you make a list of all inventions till now, something in physics or something like startups or into the technologies, languages, you will see 99% are males. So for me, this was the thing. I just wanted to do something like which a male is doing, because that is the mentality of society. That strength, brain, and power. These things belongs to male. Beauty, pretty. These are the kind of things. Delicate. These are the kind of things which belongs to female. So when we try to indicate something, like अगर just for example, अगर कोई चीज छोटी है ना तो हम उसमें ई की मात्रा लगाएंगे which denotes the female, और कोई चीज अपने शेप और साइज से बड़ी होगी ना तो हम उसमें आ की मात्रा लगाएंगे कि अपने उससे बड़ा आ है, लड़का है. So we just need to understand that. मुझे वो बहुत बुरा लगता था starting से, like why the brain strength and power should always belong to males, and the beauty, pretty, and like delicate and devotion, only these kind of things should be belonging to females. So females should also have the knowledge of technology, they should also have the knowledge of power, they should also gain strength, they should also be able to take their decision implement it and do something which can change the entire world. So why they should be the males into the army? Why they should be protecting the borders? Why they should be the ministers? And why they should only be the presidents? Why a girl need a prince? Why she cannot have her own empire? Raja ki Rani kyun banna hai? Why we cannot be the king and build our empire and someone can be our king supporting us into that? So why we should always be on the supporting part and why cannot we on the lead portion? If you will go to the Sikkim, I have seen one very important thing in the Sikkim. If there are shops, so women will be on the counter taking care of money and sales, and males will be doing the choruses like background choruses, even like taking care of a child. So there is no distinction what a male is doing, what a female is doing. That is more into like our North Indian tendency that females have to do some different set of thing and males have to do some different set of thing. So for me, since my childhood, I just wanted to create something in the terms of technology, in the terms of power, like anything. So like CA was the easiest route to reach that kind of thing, to do some business, because definitely I don't have any knowledge of business. Even at this point of time, like spending many times in doing the various kind of technological things, I feel my knowledge is very limited. And like earlier, there was a thought, but everybody has, like every youngster, they have the same thought that idea is everything. But through my experience, I have learned that idea is nothing. The idea you have, lakhs of people have the same idea every day. The important thing is execution, and execution is everything about team and people. If you can manage the people, you can get the execution done. Otherwise, no matter how smart you are, how intelligent you are, doesn't matter. Nothing matters. So for me, it was about like creating something, and I will say I have taken very wrong decisions. So whenever I see I can do this thing, I just jump into it without thinking anything. But I always feel proud for whatever I have done. Like all of those things were very important to get the experience. Like you cannot get the experience, you cannot understand the depth of something unless you actually jump into it. So for me, CA was the most support. I was the biggest support into that journey, because through CA I was being able to reach the corporates. I was being able to understand how a corporate entity works, how to manage their team. It's not just about taxation and finance. It's just a small part of everything. How to manage your teams, how to manage the people, how to get your sales done, how to handle the technological aspects. So like everything about an enterprise. So for me, it gave me the exposure to that world where I actually wanted to create something.
I think, thank you, Shefali ji, and I think it was very inspiring, and I could also see the comments on the chat box of many people over there. So it's actually really very inspiring when we see like people like all of you, right? So like you just come up and then even just show, yes, there is something we can always do. So maybe with this, like I would like to ask one simple question, I think, and this is there, and obviously this is apart from our CA thing. But this is something which keeps on coming into everyone's mind, and everyone wants to even know about, like, because when we just look into all of your knowledge, right? So it's just great, it's just exceptional. So would like to understand, like looking into how the government is even making changes. It could be GST changes, it could be income tax changes. Like how you make sure that you are updated there, and because we keep on like even like looking into your YouTube videos, and same with Divya ji and Avinash sir, right? So just would like to understand like how you make sure that you are updated with all the changes which is happening in the, especially with the laws, or it could be portal or everything. So maybe first I would like to understand from Divya ji, if you can just talk about it, and I would like to understand this from everyone here. So if you can just talk about this.
We can start updating at any point of time or at any given age. But what we have to make sure is daily, at least 1 hour should be given to the updations. Because sitting entire day and just updating won't also serve the purpose, because you have to do other works also. You have to handle clients, see cases, etc. So spending just 1 hour in the morning or in the evening, whatever your routine is, and going through all the updates, maybe any particular portal which you like, or any application or subscription which you like, you can go through that, get yourself updated. Just 1 hour itself will help you update yourself. Obviously, 1 hour is not sufficient to update yourself in each and every law, but yes, this consistent habit will help you get a lot of knowledge, and reading newspapers will definitely help you out, because you'll get a knowledge of all the things which are happening around you, be it political things, be it economic things, and be it any other happening which is going on around in your surrounding. So spending that 1 hour along with reading newspaper, and apart from that, very very important thing is yoga and meditation, which I always say, at least spare 15 minutes out of your entire 24 hours and spend time with yourself. That 15 minutes will actually help you realize that what you want, how you want to plan your entire day or your entire life, or fix your short term goals, and then accordingly start with updation and then come into your profession or your work. That will help you grow faster, and it will be a long term thing, it will be a consistent thing, it won't be a short term success.
Thank you, Divya ji. Maybe Shefali ji, if you can also talk about something on this point.
I think because we already spent a lot of time in reading thoroughly, reading GST thoroughly, everything, and Avinash, like he's even written the books, and so at this point of time when there is some update, so it will take a very less time for you to understand. For someone who is starting it, they will have to spend a lot of time. But I think once you have experience of something, it's easy to understand the updates. And I will be honest with it that I don't even go through everything every day, because I just, personally, I feel that as a team leader, my first thing is to control everything, right? To control everything. Everything should be in my control. So even if I'm not reading everything, but I always make it sure that everything should be updated in our the official manual. So everything should be there at least. Like even if I'm not personally doing something, it should not be undone just because I'm not personally involved into that thing. So at this point of time, that is my first focus, so that I can spend my time into the most important parts of the thing. Second thing is, for me, it's very important if you feel like getting bored out of something. So for GST also, I don't have any problem in saying that when there was too much of changes and there were too many things, too many discussions, I actually started feeling bored out of it, because we were just discussing, and there was no outputs, right? So I actually took a break of 2-3 months from GST. I didn't even touch it. I joined gym and I was so fascinated with it. I started spending a lot of time in gym, and all of the people on Facebook and Instagram, they can see a lot of videos, and many people say, "Madam, have you changed your profile? Now you'll be a fitness trainer." I said, no, I'm just giving myself a mental break from something which was overpowering me mentally. And after that break of 2-3 months, the gym is still there. Now it is also being streamlined. So even that is not attracting me too much 24/7. And at that time it was 24/7, right? And even GST is rationalized. So I have interest in both of them, and I give appropriate time as and when required in both of them.
Thank you, Shefali ji. So with this, maybe I would like to understand same thing from Avinash ji also, sir. If you can also talk about this same.
See, till the time I was into the routine practice of compliances, I was reading on a regular basis. But now, after being into the litigation practice, we are now more brief based. Chartered accountants or the clients are coming with a brief. We are reading the brief, and then accordingly what law has to be referred, how it has to be referred. We are more into the research work now, in spite of the daily reading of this thing. But only thing that I would like to share with all the participants and the juniors would be, whatever you read and whatever you practice, maybe yoga, or maybe I am into music, so I devote my time for music so as to get freshened up. But about this tax laws, we also must be. I think my connection is lost.
But you're still audible, Avinash.
I guess he dropped.
Not even audible now.
Okay, he joined back.
My
Hello.
connection is getting lost.
Yeah, now it's perfect.
Now you're audible.
So the only thing is that I would suggest that over and above the tax laws, we should also read the other allied laws that will help us to broaden our perspective and then to present ourselves in a better manner. And more specifically, what we have never read is Constitution of India. We should focus on Constitution of India. केवल एक वही आप पढ़ लेंगे तो I don't think that any law will be difficult for you to understand because सब कुछ वहीं से ही आ रहा है. So Constitution of India is something which is very important. Then the allied laws or allied litigation aspects, maybe the cross examination. There be fake invoices के allegations हैं, तो you should be very good at cross examinations. You should be aware about the burden of proof. So those allied subjects also we as a chartered accountant must be aware of. This is what I would suggest. But on a regular basis, yes, I would agree with Divyaji that being a regular practitioner or a compliance person, you should be thorough and at least 1 hour per day. The reading habit has to be there. It is just like a question of habit. आप कुछ भी पढ़ें pertaining to your profession, but you should read and you should get yourself updated. That will build inbuilt confidence amongst you. You will feel more confident कि you are aware. Otherwise, मैं 5 दिन GST का कुछ नहीं होता. जैसे 47 GST Council meeting था, I have never read what they have suggested. So I thought कि I am outdated now. So this what happening with the changes in will be accustomed to it. That's it.
Thank you, Avinashi. So, and as I think one of the habit like which we always should make it is the reading habit. Like it should be like at least an hour a day. It is also like sufficient. So if you just do that, I think you will always be updated with the changes which is already happening. So maybe now, because we also talked about this, I would also like to understand from all of you if you can just like tell about something, or maybe if you can give something or tell, like especially to our pursuing, like people who are actually pursuing CA. So if you can just give some advice to them, like from your your experience, like what you experience which you have hold. So that will be great. Like maybe I would like to first understand from Shefali if you can give some advice to the people who are pursuing CA, like what exactly they should do so that they also like become a CA like all of you.
Like it's for CA or it's for any person who is.
It could be any professional.
Any degree.
It could be any professional. Yeah.
I think when we are going through a course or degree, our first focus is to get passed. And sometimes when I address students, I even say the same thing to them. But our first focus should always be on gaining the knowledge. You know, the habit to gain the knowledge, the habit to discipline yourself, right? Then digging deep into the things, you know, working on the details of everything. That one thing will always help you, even if you don't get degree. See, in last 10 to 20 years, the corporates have changed a lot. Earlier, the corporates were, you know, they were used to run behind the degrees. Now they want people, the people with the brain, people who have the confidence and who have the problem-solving approach. They actually focus on that. And you can see there are many people, many corporates, like who hire the people with no degrees, but they have that problem-solving attitude, because at this point of time, see, it's YouTube era, you know, and I have seen the kids who don't have any degree and they have that much of knowledge about everything. It's like, for a small example, you will see a lot of advocates all over India, right? And recently, like with Jim and before Jim, I also had an interest in Constitution of India. So I started watching a lot of the videos on Constitution of India, its articles, clauses, famous cases, historical cases, and I was watching a lot of Vikas Divyakirti, the TIS, right? And such a nice speaker he is, right? And at that point of time, I tried to discuss some of the articles of Constitution with some, you know, advocates who had the degrees. But I realized that nobody is interested. They read it only when they had to write in paper, and after that, it vanished from their brain. They were not even interested. So I will say interest, creating love for something. So when you give your, you know, genuine time to something, it will pull you for itself. Even if you don't get a degree, even if you don't get passed, although in 99% cases you will get passed. So if you understand a subject, why you will not get passed? But if you will focus only on getting passed, your focus will be different. You will be completely dependent on the teacher, notes, scanners, you know, and those kind of things. So your complete focus will be like for an example, when it comes to GST or any taxation law, students will always focus on returns, input tax credits, maximum refunds, because that is the maximum part which is coming into the paper. because paper is drafted from like written one question from written chapter. So that is the worst thing we have given to our students. एक क्वेश्चन रिटर्न चैप्टर में से, एक क्वेश्चन इसमें से. अच्छा ओके, ऑफेंसेस में से कितना आएगा, आया नहीं पिछले 5 साल से, छोड़ दो. That is the worst part of our education system. Every chapter is important. So when you will go to the practical world, then penalty, offense, that is also important. But as a student, as I know, I am just scanning the scanner and I know that okay, 8 पेज का चैप्टर है, इसमें तो 1 नंबर का भी नहीं आया, leave it. So for the practical life, you should try to read everything and try to understand it's important from the practical point of view. Because in the practical life, you know, as a student, it's easy to understand and read. Once you will be professional, it will be difficult for you if you don't have any background. So that's the thing. But your first love should be your books, studies, and subject. If you love them, you are definitely going to get passed. But don't start using those shortcuts. In sir ke notes पढ़ लो, 2 दिन में पढ़ के pass. Don't do that with your studies.
Thank you. Thank you, Shefali ji. Maybe with this, I would like to understand from Avinash sir, if you can also like talk about or maybe give some advice to the people who are actually pursuing this professional course.
The only thing that I would like to say here is that if you love this profession, if you are really in I think Divyaji can continue because there are a lot of issues in my connection. Only thing is practice, practice, and practice. There is no shortcut to success. That is the only thing that I would like to share.
Thank you, Avinash sir. Maybe Divyaji, if you can also talk about the same.
See, for all these students who are pursuing various professional courses, be it advocacy, be it ICSI, company secretary course, ICWA from ICWA or ICAI, I would like to say, first of all, enjoy your journey of the student, because this is not going to come again. You have to strike a balance in between your studies, your practical, as well as your personal life. Try to enjoy this and don't take a load of, nahi, I have to study and study and study, because that load won't take you anywhere. Once you strike a balance, ki haan, itni der I have to study, this next time I have to do the practical work, and this is my personal time, that will actually help you clear all those exams. And make sure whenever you are studying now, your 100% concentration should be on studies. Just sitting and studying for 14 hours, 18 hours a day, and actually having your mind over something else won't serve the purpose. Sit and study for 6 hours, but make sure it should be giving you an output of 12 hours. That would be sufficient, and enjoy remaining 18 hours. Just study for 6 hours, enjoy for 18 hours. That would also do, provided you are doing 6 hours of sincere and honest studies. And second thing which I would like to say is, some people are having a habit of making short notes so that they can revise it at the end point of time. And some people, they are like, I will be revising through the entire course. So in whatever category you fall, do that thing accordingly, and have a particular aim into your mind that after 5 years, I want to see myself over here. I want to do something over here. I want to have my own name, my own recognition, or I want myself to be in certain so-and-so company or so-and-so profile. So that picture will help you and encourage you go towards that and achieve your goal. So this was actually what I had done in my student time. So this is what I would like to tell you also, that don't take stress of any kind of professional course which you are doing. Just strike a balance, and whenever you are studying, now make sure at that point of time you are studying. No social media thing should distract you in that particular number of hours when you are actually studying.
Thank you, Divyaji. And I think this is something which every people, like who, especially whosoever is pursuing their professional courses or maybe in general, right? So they should understand about the same, and they should know like what exactly they should do, and obviously they should love what exactly they are doing. So with this, I would say I think Archit ji also joined, and every one of you already know Archit. And maybe I will just give a brief introduction, but though it is not even needed. So he, from being a software engineer in the Silicon Valley to helming one of the India's largest startup, he's a founder and the CEO at ClearTax and has spearheaded a massive shift in the fintech sector through the use of technology. So with this, we'll welcome Archit ji.
Hi, Surbi. Thank you for having me. Happy CA Day to everybody. I think this is such a fun day to be here.
Thank you. So so since you joined, so maybe I would like to just understand few things from you. And one of the thing, like how CAs are at the heart of ClearTax.
Yeah, so I think like that's a very fun question. Unfortunately, I am not a CA. I don't have the degree. I'm an engineer, but even at the starting time, actually my dad's a CA, and then that's how we got started. And from the very beginning, the company has always had a lot of chartered accountants in the core team. Surbi being one of them. I can quote many folks like Ashish and multiple other folks who were as part of the team from day zero, both on the direct taxes side, indirect taxes side, and now multiple other initiatives that we do. So, overall the company has had many young folks who were still finishing up their CA and then became CAs with us and have continued the journey, and then folks who were full-time CAs and then they have walked a journey with us. So the company ClearTax, our startup has been just a combination of engineers and chartered accountants, and so it feels very core to us. It feels like who we are. So the role that chartered accountants have played in our company is actually thinking about the tax law as it is laid out, and turning that into a simple piece of technology and an experience for users, taxpayers, to make it very, very simple and automate the journey. So the kind of role chartered accountants play with us is taking this problem of taxes, whether it is income taxes or GST and some of these challenges which normal users, normal taxpayers face, and then they turn that into user workflows. On the GST side, we have products for CA firms themselves. So many of our chartered accountants were actually working in various CA firms, so they understood the problems chartered accountants face, and so they were able to take that and channel that into our technology, into our software. Then, as we did more digitization of enterprises and larger businesses, chartered accountants from both sides, like the users and our teams, have transformed our technology into something which users find easy to do, automate everything. So overall, I feel like half our company is chartered accountants, half is engineers.
Yeah, so I would say I can even resonate with that, because me being a part of ClearTax for so many years, so I know when I started and how even the CAs even help in that automating, making flows and all, and you actually always motivate us to do something like that and think little differently. So maybe with this, I would also like to understand. So since we know that Clear is known for the tax compliance, it was also known for the fintech company, the finance compliance and all. How exactly this technology, right, it can actually help the tax experts?
Right. So I feel the overall tax professional ecosystem is evolving very rapidly with technology. And I was listening to the esteemed panel before I joined on YouTube, and Shefali was talking about the use of artificial intelligence, bots, and the technology which is context aware, even in terms of reading the law and making opinions. So I think I think the profession is very much awake and aware of the fact that technology is going to completely change the way we do things. More recently, in the artificial intelligence space, there has been DALI, which is a technology for generating images, where you just describe a prompt that I want an image like a cat playing a flute, and then you get images of cats playing flutes, different kinds of contexts, and cats playing flute. So the world is changing very rapidly, and the all professions, not just chartered accountancy, are changing very rapidly. Like this is in the field of design. Like one could have argued, like design is such a creative pursuit, a human pursuit, where we as visual beings will observe a visual and take a judgment on this visual is a cat and this is a flute and the cat is playing a flute is a visual judgment that we make. But a technology, a computer is able to produce that, right? So similarly, this is going to evolve completely, and the role of a professional will have to significantly evolve. Now this may happen in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. That is one. The timeline and the horizon is one question. The second is, I believe, like evolution evolution of automation, just basic automation or simple technologies, rule-based technologies, etc., is pushing the profession into saying like whatever can be digitized will be digitized. What I mean by that is the profession itself has to evolve into higher value. Today, I feel a lot of professionals engage in low value work today, which is done by computers, done by technology, which can be automated a lot. We also think a lot about automation. The servicing element is just the human touch or the fear which taxpayers may have, and the professional is helping the taxpayer just get over the fear or uncertainty or doubt about the. And then there is interpretation of A, the law, B just discomfort with something which is difficult. But more and more over 10 years, right? Clear tax has been in existence for 10 years. So we saw like earlier there used to be, okay, this should be done manually, or when we started automatic tax returns, pre-filled tax returns, people said like, oh, this is new, this is not possible. And now the income tax department itself is just offering pre-filled tax returns and pre-computed tax returns. And we have done recently linkages to all brokerages and exchanges, and all of that automatically should be able to produce like the full data and so on and so forth. So overall, my view is what will not change is people needing comfort. People go to a professional expert for comfort, for understanding, for change management, for evolving, for the evolution of technology itself. So these kind of things are happening in the world. So these kind of things will remain in the world, where people, like as humans, we are community driven, we are driven by learnings from each other. That will remain. Otherwise, all the low value stuff, like I wholeheartedly echo what Shefali was saying like an hour ago at this in this forum, in this panel. All the low value stuff will go away, will get automated. So the profession itself has to evolve into higher value, let's say advisory, let's say thinking about where to take the business, what decisions to make, what decisions matter, influence, advise. Those kind of elements are never going to go away in human nature. But the elements of basic automation, technology, what technology can do, will do, I think those elements will evolve and keep getting better. It's also the country where we are in. India is one of the most digital countries in the world. Like I'm just today was attending the event at the Ministry of Finance, where the ministry celebrated 5 years of GST, and the goal even the finance minister has, is to have no subjectivity in the interpretation of the law, in how the technology is implemented. And their further goal is to automate everything and to bring more artificial intelligence to fraud detection, to automation, to even litigation. Why should there be litigation and subjectivity where technology can just take a decision? And India is moving there, and we have committed to that, right? Input tax credit, reconciliation and all of that is painful, right? Like, but even with that, India is just on that path of automated system driven decision making. We at a 1.3 billion people nation do not want to make decisions on these elements. elements. We just want technology and systems and digital infrastructure to make those decisions. So I think two aspects. One is where our country is. We want more transparency, less subjectivity, and belief in systems. And that is going to continue and accelerate because we have systems like Aadhaar, UPI, GST, e-invoicing, and this is just accelerating from where we are. Like, we are now trying to do online commerce as an open platform. We are trying to do account aggregate as an open platform. So that is the evolution of where I feel the fintech industry is going, or the overall taxation side is going, or the digitization side is going. So from a CA expert perspective, there's a lot of directions which come up in the future: forensic audits, fraud detection, using technology. Like, there's a lot of evolution which can happen, but we cannot live in the past of, oh, these are digital taxes, we can do it, and I'm just doing the bookkeeping or record keeping. Or record keeping is important, but like, that's not what a professional is doing, and taxation is just one aspect which actually technology should take care of. And my suggestion over there is digitize everything, automate everything, and then move to the next layer. Move to the next layer of inciting, move to the next layer of advisory, move to the next layer of forensics, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Achiti. And I think you just talked about like a lot of things, and some of the things which we have even discussed. And I would say even as Divya ji and Shefali ji was talking about, like how we can even talk about like how we can even reduce this manual efforts, like the manual effort about, for example, reconciliation and all, which we know that every month we have to do this. So it can be automated, and we can more focused on driving the insights for our clients. So we can give the more value add to the clients, and especially looking into time also, right? So when we just look into today, we have some deadline for 2B, we have some deadline for 3B, and 2B is generated on 14th, and again 3B we have to file by 20th. So we just have spam of like 6-7 days over there, and for that we have to do reconciliation for a lot of clients. So there are a lot of GSTs for which we have to even work on. So that's again a problem, right? We cannot like do in just 6 days time. So there again technology help us, where we can automate things, and we can then just focus on, okay, now the things are reviewed and finalized. So
right. So yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, please.
No, I was just saying, now more and more I feel there's a complete shift which is happening to what I consider as real-time compliances. So when operations are happening, like earlier what used to happen is operations happen first, the business is happening, and later on folks were reporting it after the fact. The compliance elements used to happen after the facts. After the facts have happened. Now with the event of e-invoicing, this is changing. The design of e-invoicing is such that basically you're complying real time, and if you have exceptions, you can go report them later on. So those become the exception, and the norm becomes the real time compliance, or the real time reporting of data to the government platforms and various platforms. And so then what starts to happen, and that's where we are moving towards as a company, and we think taxpayers should move there, and professionals should move there, is now advising clients and taxpayers and their customers to move to real-time compliances. What do I mean by that is, for example, e-invoicing now, like 20 crore turnover has already happened. The government has indicated that it will go to 5 crores. So as more and more that threshold and limit goes down, the ideally GSTR 1 will not exist, and so on and so forth. Second is the evolution of the purchase register itself will happen, like on the accounts payable side, real time now the electronic invoice generated by the buyer will come in, and that can be validated in the operational workflow real time. For example, we produce technology called Clear Capture, which is for somewhat larger companies, and we intend to ship it for small and medium businesses as well, but which validate the electronic invoice or the actual invoice with artificial intelligence, with the OCR, optical character recognition. Take a photo and the invoice is read automatically via technology. The goal with that is validate the invoices real time, validate the GSTI in real time, validate everything. 200 validations run on that invoice real time to identify possible issues, and basis that the machine can even have a rule engine to accept, reject basis the rules. So what that does is you're not doing these reconciliations at the end of the month or end of the quarter or the end of the year. That's painful and manual, and that's not really required with technology, in my belief. That's not really required to be done by humans because of the presence of technology. So my belief is always technology should do all this work. Humans should think about next level insight, data. How does data inform decisions? How to take decisions, and so on and so forth. So overall here, our judgment is that given the fact that the way systems are designed by the government, by the GSTN, more and more this will become real time, and reconciliations, while they post facto a lot of reconciliations have to be done in life, they will become less intense and less important.
Thank you. Thank you, Archit. And maybe I would just ask one simple question, like, because you just talked about especially e-invoicing, you just talked about this reconciliation thing, and also like how the government is even performing, and in general also, if we just look into it, right, like we all understand, like the government, they are linking different portals also. So
Yes.
they are linking maybe income tax with the GST. They are even linking IceGate with the GST portal. And not only this, like even if we just talk about like capital gains, right? So that is something which government is like already showing in this AIS report and all. So like how do you really think like this future taxation system will evolve in the coming days, and how the technologies and CAs would be leveraging this tech?
Right. So more and more, I'll take a 5-year view here. The siloed. So earlier on, the government itself was on paper and pen. There were no digital infrastructure, no digital systems. Over the income tax department digitization started maybe 10 years, 12 years ago. The GST started 5 years ago with GST and what have you. So when you look at it, like from an infrastructure perspective, these are relatively new to the country. It's 1 decade and half a decade old, like technology, if you think about it, right? So now, but we're just to give credit to where credit is due, India is like 20 years ahead of the world, or 10 years ahead of the world. When I look at the rest of the world versus India, India is much ahead. So that's something I feel incredibly excited about. The second part is all of this is going to be connected, and as India keeps making more investments, this will keep getting better. My only one view where I feel where we can go in the wrong direction is if we don't have this center driving. I've generally not seen states creating great IT infrastructure and digital infrastructure. So when we have a federal country, laws are both federal and state, and federal means center and state. So central laws, when implemented in technology, have done well. We have not seen states have that incredible budget it takes to implement such expensive IT infrastructure. So IT infrastructure and this digital infrastructure is very expensive to build. Capex is very high. The central government has done a very, very good job in it. So my view on this is there's a very clear direction India is taking to link it all up and absorb data real time. Even when you look at exchanges, when you look at TDS, like at a quarterly level and what have you. So absorb data real time or close to real time and link all these databases together. And my guess is at some point, given the kind of population we have and given the kind of scale that we want to achieve, the government will not want to have a lot of humans in the system, and it will be all digital. And even the income tax return, in my view, is even for the business side, after a few years will be auto-generated. Today, ITR 3 is very difficult for the machine to generate. We are not there yet. Unless you own the accounting system, even then there are so many exceptions and so many edge cases. But we will define it or simplify the law. One way or the other, it's going to get resolved because sometimes even the law simplification also comes in. So one way or the other, it's going to get resolved. I think GST rates the number of rates we have in India, maybe they come down because the lobbying, a lot of things keep evolving. Now, the argument which can be made is tax codes keep getting more complex with lobbying. We have seen this in the United States, where the tax code keeps getting more complex as more lobbyists show up. So that is the only way. That is one way where CAs will continue to have very deep relevance. But I feel as a nation, we should not go there. Relevance due to complexity of the law, I feel that is a regression, given how densely populated our country is and how we want to bring people to prosperity and take them to the next level. So, but with that said, like the evolution of all these databases linking together is also being done for economic prosperity. If you look at account aggregator and you look at multiple other things, they are also going in the direction of financial inclusion and for giving loans to businesses, giving loans to individuals. Account aggregator and the OCEN framework, which is the government's frameworks, they're also designed to give access to credit to India, which we as a country definitely need. So my view on this is we are on this one-way direction to automation, digitization, and linking up all these databases across the country.
Thank you, Archiji. I think this actually explained a lot about like how things will move in the future. And maybe with this, I would like to conclude our today's session. And I would like to thank you for joining here.
I would just like to thank all the CAs here. I'm just feeling left out. I'm the only non-CA here, so I just feel excited to meet everybody. And just thank you, Divya. Thank you, Shifali. Thank you, Avinash. Just to see everybody. Thank you, Sophie.
Thanks. So yeah, so I would like to thanks like for all our panelists over here to come here, join us, and obviously took time to even actually explain a lot of things and even share their experience with our audience over here on this special day, which is CA Day. And would like to actually congrats, like happy CA Day to all of you. And we all know like why this becomes very important, and whenever we see when we cleared CA, this is still, it's like, okay, this is just like a day back ago, like it's never like a kind of, it's been lot of years we have like passed CA, so we still feel proud of being a CA.
To even actually explain lot of things.
So this is something we always do. And not only this, I think today, obviously, we also have a GST day, and we have also seen like when the GST was launched, how it was and how it is today. So with this, I would like to thanks also the audience for joining us, and even like coming out and just took their time to like look into it. And I hope you learned a lot of things from our panelists over here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Subi. Thanks, Archit.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.